Call it. Call it, yes. For a whole lot. Just call it. Well, we need to know what we're calling it for here. You need to call it. Call it. All right. Heads then.
Almost every film has a soundtrack or score of some kind, that is, artificial music added to the film to supplement a scene. This is often to encourage audiences to feel a particular emotion. In No Country for Old Men, there is no score, no soundtrack, barely even natural music playing in the film's scenes. Critics praise this for adding tension and authenticity to the film, but how important is the lack of film score in No Country for Old Men? How does it improve the scenes in the film overall? In this video, I aim to analyse the lack of score in No Country for Old Men. In this video, Must Talks, No Country for Old Men, silence is golden. First, let's define what we mean by score in a film. It's important to distinguish between a score and a soundtrack. A soundtrack can be a song which already exists and was not created for the film specifically, but used by the director. A great example of this is the film Baby Driver. This film has a soundtrack. A film score is original music composed for the purpose of a particular film. Some scores are more famous than others. Some are more famous than the film itself. See if you can identify some of the following scores with the films they were written for. Film scores are mostly used by directors to further encourage the audience to feel a particular way. Let's take Psycho, the 1960 horror film, as an example. In the infamous shower scene, the screeching score that plays throughout is meant to evoke tension and fear in the audience. The score itself is almost a second jump scare, as well as the on-screen jump scare. In contrast, we could look at the Shawshank Redemption and its score. In the final scene, the score used is uplifting and emphasizes the feel-good moment of Red and Andy meeting one another again. In many films, villains often appear on screen with some sort of film score, one that is quite sinister and instantly tells the audience this character is to be feared or not trusted. In No Country for Old Men, there is very little score, but surprisingly this takes nothing away from the film and in fact adds to it. The main theme of No Country for Old Men is the theme of realism. The main cop, played by Tommy Lee Jones, finds it increasingly difficult to keep up with the town's crimes. He finds his way of policing the town to being out of touch with what the town needs, hence the name of the film No Country for Old Men. In the film, we see the main character Llewellyn as a flawed protagonist, one that steals money that does not belong to him, but he is the character we identify with because of the film's villain, Anton Chigurh. The film ends with the protagonist found dead, murdered off-screen, and the film's villain getting away with the murder without any comeuppance. The plot of the film tells us this. The film is going against the grain of stereotypical film conventions where the good guy wins and the bad guy doesn't, often being caught or killed by the good guy. The plot of the film is trying to be authentic, and with the lack of a film score, it becomes even more authentic. Take the following scene as an example. Commented on No Country for Old Men, some critics have commented on the lack of score in the film, stating all you hear in some of the film's most gripping sequences is a suffocating silence. It can be said that film scores also play another role in films. They not only tell you what to feel, but when to feel it. Take Jaws as an example. We know there will be an attack by the shark because of the famous Jaws theme playing just seconds before this. This gives the audience a heads up and at times can take away from the scene itself. In No Country for Old Men, we don't get this, and so we don't know what to expect from the scenes. One reviewer adds, I think the lack of score makes the movie more suspenseful. You're not guided by the score, and so you lose that comfort zone. In one of the film's most intense scenes, the shootout between Llewellyn and Chigurh, the lack of score is even more obvious. Each footstep seems to be that much louder, each breath that much shorter. We listen as intensely as the characters as they aim to identify their opponent's whereabouts based off the quietest of movements. The ending of the film has long been discussed by audiences. Some criticise it for being anticlimactic, while others praise it for continuing the authentic feel to the film. This can, and has, been long debated, but what is clear again here is the lack of score, the lack of sound. As we hear the cop speak the final few words of the film, the credits appear, and we hear silence. The audience are left wondering what happened. This scene can be overanalyzed and in its simplicity can cause confusion. That is it. That is how the conversation with the cop and his wife ends. That is how the film ends. The story of Anton Chigurh is left open. Whether Llewellyn's murder will ever be resolved is left open. The film allows the audience to take in what has just happened and come to their own conclusion, simply through silence. This is only one example of how films can use, or in this case not use, scores to their benefit. Next time you watch a film, pay close attention to its score. Does it improve the film and enhance some of its scenes? Or can you think of any more films without any scores? Thanks for watching, and please remember to like, share and subscribe.